Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF44 coming up to you with another video. So I want to talk about Russell Westbrook because this is a situation, a very, very strange situation, where Russell Westbrook is putting up MVP numbers, numbers that MVP candidates don't put up. But because he's on a team like the Washington Wizards, where they don't have a whole lot of talent there to help him really, take the East or at least even be in the playoff hunt, really. Actually, I think they are close to the playoff hunt. They're probably in that 10th seed range, trying to get into the play-in tournament. But in terms of like being an MVP candidate, what's required, he's not in the race, but his numbers demand our respect, as they always have. This is one of those things where it's like, wow, we really thought Russie was done. And I say we, speaking of myself, I don't want to add anybody to this conversation in regards to this, but I thought Russie was done. And when I say done, that doesn't mean that I thought he would be unproductive forever, but I thought his triple doubles would come in the form of like 11 points, 10 assists, 10 boards. I still thought he would average a triple double, to be completely honest with you. At some point, I did not think that he was done being a productive player in a unique form, in a triple double form that only he brings to the table as consistently as he does. But I just did not know his scoring would come back around. I thought his shooting woes were permanent. Now, we know he's not a three-point shooter. Historically, he's not that great. In fact, he's pretty bad. But I think most of the problem there is the fact that he takes so many of them and isn't that good of a shooter. If he would just take a moderate amount, historically, I don't think his numbers would be as bad as they are, because we've seen him hit threes, but he breaks them a lot, unfortunately for his stats. But if you look at what he's doing in Washington this year, it's comparable to what he did in his MVP season with the Thunder. He's putting up 30 points and triple doubles, 15 boards, 15 assists, like stuff like that is just not human, not normal, and it's just weird for me looking back on that Houston Rockets team, because you thought that it was James Harden. It's like, okay, nobody can play with this guy. It was one of them type of things where it's like, if you're on his team, you just got to be there watching him dribble, do his little stir it up dribble moves, and then put people in the blender and send them home with an and one or a 4-point play or something, whatever he decides to do. But I'm starting to adjust my thinking, because everybody, including James himself, who has left that system, has gone on to have better tenures elsewhere. Not overall success necessarily, because that Houston Rockets team got some playoff wins and got some series out of people, but individually their numbers get better. Now, that's the complete antithesis to what I was initially thinking in regards to the Houston Rockets system, particularly in MDA, Mike D'Antoni's system, because Mike D'Antoni's the kind of guy where if you're a 20-point scorer, he can turn you into a 30-point scorer just simply being in his system. 30 seconds or less, things like that. But what we've come to learn was it was a bit of a deterrent, because it was a bit of a deterrent to cohesive basketball play as it pertained to having one single superstar who could do the things that James Harden could do. It made it so that he was the only person necessary in the offense. And that, of course, makes you one-dimensional. It makes it easy for you to be defended. It wasn't James himself, because now that he's left Houston and has gone on to Brooklyn, he's one of the best assist men in the game. He is the facilitator of that team. He makes it go. He makes the offense run. So you say, well, the very thing that we said he couldn't do in Houston is the thing that he is expected to do in Brooklyn and is excelling in at an MVP caliber level. So there was really no problem with anyone. Chris Paul left Houston after being in that system. And Chris Paul played very well in Houston, but he had to battle to try to get his stuff going, because he was doing the tag team thing with James Harden as well, and it didn't work. Russell Westbrook, it worked even less, because Russell Westbrook's less of a shooter. And but you see these guys, obviously Chris Paul has left Houston, went on to OKC, had a fantastic year there. It's gone on to Phoenix. Phoenix is about to be the 1 seed in the Western Conference or something like that, close to it. I think they just made the 1 seed, probably with the Utah getting beat tonight by my team. But you can clearly see the guys leave Houston and have great times elsewhere. And it's just it's baffling, really. It's really baffling. You look at Russell Westbrook, obviously, and his situation is like where he's losing. He's in Washington. That's not a good situation. He's missed half the season. Their team has been hit with the protocol all year, and yet here they are beating people. Him and Bradley Beal look like all-world beaters, like they really are. The only problem that they have is they don't have a whole lot of talent around them. So, and it's tough because it's like, even if you say, okay, like in my mind, the first thing that I wanted to say after that was, I think it would be wise to just try to shut those guys down and try to build around them next year. Just try to not necessarily rebuild, but just kind of retool, because you do have two healthy super duper stars that are playing at a high level, and that's a winning situation if you build around it, and it shouldn't be too impossible to improve that talent on that team around those two players over the next year. A good GM can make that team a lot better with a couple quick moves. So maybe it would be best to shut them down. But the problem is with Russell Westbrook and doing something like that is he's so far into his career that you may think you're getting this type of production from him this year, and then next year will be the first year where he's not doing that anymore. But the way things are going, I thought that was 2 years ago, and yet here we are. So with Russell Westbrook, he's a very difficult player to gauge in terms of how he's going to age, because I thought we saw the aging process beginning, and now I'm not so sure anymore. But when you have next level athleticism and next level ability, you can kind of turn back the clock or change the narrative a bit, just by getting in better shape and being in a situation that allows you a bit more peace of mind. And I think to a certain degree, Washington has actually done that for Russell Westbrook. And that seems so strange even to say that, because it's like that was a winning situation. Now he's in a not so winning situation. But I think the reality is he's just been given the ball again. He doesn't have anybody like James Harden keeping him from being able to be himself. Washington, Bradley Beal's more of a traditional scoring shooting guard. So Russell Westbrook can hold the ball, do his thing, all the things that he does, and Bradley Beal plays off of him perfectly, still able to get all that he's able to get, just like a guy like Kevin Durant, because Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant are both similar in a sense that they don't need too many touches to get a lot of points. You give them the ball in their spots and they just let them fly. KD, Bradley Beal, Klay Thompson are the three names that come to mind immediately, where they don't need to dribble at all. You just give them the ball and just let them shoot, and they're going to take off. So that's the type of player that fits Russell Westbrook perfectly. So now, as I said, it's just about them retooling and getting the team back together. I would probably, after thinking about it in real time, I would probably rest Russell and Bradley, to be honest with you. I don't see the harm in doing that. I also don't see the harm in not doing that, to be completely honest with you. They could play it out, maybe make the 10 seed. You never know. It's the Eastern Conference. Things can happen. You might get lucky, get a good matchup in the first round and overachieve, or get a play-in game and actually win it. I don't know what their situation is, but I'm pretty sure they're in that range, and I don't think that's a bad idea to go after it. I mean, they've been a losing team for so long. They don't draft very well, particularly. They do have a Hall of Famer for a first time in quite a while to go along with Bradley Beal, with respect to John Wall, and they really do have something to worth rooting for. And sometimes that's really all your fans really want after decades of having tough times. They just want something to be hopeful for, something to root for, something to at least be okay about, because the rebuild process just isn't going well for them from decade to decade, obviously. So this might not be a lost season, or rather, it may be fine to not call this a lost season, even though they might be on the outside looking in necessarily. Might not be the worst thing to just let them play it out. So I'm on the fence about that, as you guys can clearly see. But all in all, Russell Westbrook is playing phenomenally. He's an MVP candidate. His contract is a little too rich to really get bought out. Of course, it's not happening now, but in theory, you would like to see him maybe get a chance like Drummond to sign with a team that can help him go after the big deal. But unfortunately, his contract's just too healthy for that. So that's really that. And to a point, I guess, a guy like that wants to play for a ring, but he's also playing with a guy who wants to play for a ring. Okay? So let's say maybe somebody will join them. Maybe they'll get lucky and get a draft pick or something. I don't know, but the GM is going to have to do some wheeling and dealing to improve quickly, and I just don't have any idea if the GM in place is the guy for that. I'm clueless, honestly. But I can say from the moves that they've made, I'm optimistic that they're okay. Because I like the move that they made with the Chicago Bulls, picking up those two bigs, Hutchinson and Gafford. I like those guys. I think they're going to be helpful for the Wizards for years to come. We're finding out that both of them are a bit better than they showed us in the Bulls. And it didn't cost a whole lot to get those guys. They didn't lose anything that they really, really need. So, just from reading the tea leaves, looking at how things are going, there's some hope there. Look, it's just like this, man. All they need is another star. It's like if you let's just say you put Karl Anthony Towns on the Washington Wizards right now. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, that's how good they become immediately. They just need one more guy. You got 2, you need a 3rd. And getting a guy to come play with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook isn't going to be easy at all, if at all possible. But I would love to see them somehow acquire a Kristaps Porzingis or somebody like that to just put them in the range of the teams like Chicago, New York, Charlotte. Those are the teams coming to mind for the Eastern Conference who are in the middle of the pack, not quite where they want to be, but not at the bottom of the barrel. Indiana. I think a player like that would put Washington in that space if they can continue to get this kind of production out of Westbrook and Beal. So that's what you're hoping for. That's what you're praying for if you're a Washington fan. I don't believe letting go of Russell Westbrook makes you better from this point. Go for 14. 10-4. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so that's really all I wanted to say, you guys. Honestly, Russell Westbrook is one of my favorite players in terms of energy, and I love players who just facilitate in general, and he's obviously one of the best assist players in the game. In summary, the Houston Rockets situation was weird. I think that's what I've come to learn, that those last 4 years in Houston with James Harden and whoever else they wanted to run with him just didn't make any sense. The way it played out didn't make any sense. The way the numbers look after those players left doesn't make any sense. It was just a weird situation. And I think that's what I was trying to come along here to say. And that's it, man. That's it. I hadn't said it all. My name is BDF44. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out.